Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something the most dangerous woman in the room? She ain't the loudest. This way, she ain't the one posting every step she takes. She's the one you never see coming. Because while everybody else is busy talking, she's moving in silence and shaking the ground beneath your feet. If you're watching this right now, it's because something in you is tired of being predictable. You're tired of sharing your plans, only to feel the sting of betrayal, the weight of judgment, the distraction of opinions that were never meant to be part of your journey. So let me break it down for you. A wise woman understands that silence is not a weakness, it's a strategy. There is power in privacy, and she knows that not every detail of her journey is meant to be shared with the world. In fact, the more sacred the goal, the quieter she becomes. Because deep down, she understands something most people don't. That the moment you speak it out loud, you give other people a doorway into your process, your vulnerabilities, and your dreams. And not everybody deserves that access. We live in a world that pushes oversharing, a world where people confuse attention with achievement, but she knows better. She doesn't need to prove anything. Her silence isn't emptiness, it's preparation. It's the stillness before the impact. She trusts that the work she's doing in private will speak so loudly in the end that she won't have to say a word. That's the kind of power that doesn't need an announcement. It needs commitment. There's nothing wrong with having dreams. There's nothing wrong with being excited about where you're headed. But where many fall short is in thinking that excitement should be shared with everyone. It shouldn't, because not every ear that listens is a safe one. Some people pretend to cheer for you while quietly hoping you fail. Some people are only clapping so they can count how many steps it takes you to fall. That woman, the one who's been through betrayal, disappointment, and delays, she's learned. She's seen what happens when plans are spoken too soon. She knows the value of keeping her blueprint locked down until the masterpiece is complete. Privacy is power because it protects the process. When you're quiet, you're focused. You're not distracted by applause. You're not reacting to criticism. You're simply doing the work. In the shadows, in the silence, building something real. She understands this. She doesn't need to talk about the seeds she's planting. She just waters them, nurtures them, and lets them grow. And when they bloom, when they burst through the soil and shock the world, everyone will want to know how she did it. But by then, the answer will be simple: in silence. The truth is, there's a spiritual discipline in privacy. It requires trust. It requires patience. It requires maturity. A woman who trusts doesn't rush to explain herself. She doesn't feel the need to justify her decisions. She doesn't need constant validation. Her confidence is quiet, and quiet confidence is unshakable. It's the kind that doesn't scream for attention because it knows its worth. Some people misunderstand silence. They think it means she's unsure or passive. But silence can be the loudest statement you ever make. Because it says, I don't owe you a play-by-play of my progress. It says, I know where I'm going, and I don't need your permission to get there. That's not arrogance. That's authority. That's self-respect. She keeps her plans private because she respects the weight of what she's building. She knows every dream comes with resistance. Every goal attracts opposition. And the more people you tell, the more opinions you collect. Opinions that can start to chip away at your focus, your energy, your clarity. So she guards her plans like treasure, because that's what they are: precious, priceless, and not to be exposed to anyone who hasn't earned the right to see them. There's something sacred about the woman who knows how to move in silence. She wakes up with intention. She handles her business without announcing every detail. She's not disappearing, she's developing, she's not hiding, she's healing. And when the time is right, she'll step forward. Not with words, not with explanations, but with undeniable results. People will wonder how she did it, where she's been, what she's been working on, but she won't say much. She'll just smile. Because those who understand power know that the strongest moves are often the ones made in complete silence. The woman who trusts isn't in a rush to be seen. She's not in competition with anyone. Her path is her own. She's content to walk it without applause, because she knows the most meaningful victories are often the quietest ones. They happen in the late nights, in the early mornings, in the tears no one sees and the prayers no one hears. That's where the transformation happens. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. When she finally does arrive, she doesn't need to explain how long it took, or how many times she fell, or how much she sacrificed. Because the moment she shows up, everything around her will reflect what she endured to get there. That kind of presence can't be faked. That kind of peace can't be taught. It's earned. And it's only possible when you stop announcing and start aligning. So if you're that woman, if you feel that pull to go quiet, to pull back, to keep it to yourself, listen to it. Don't second guess it. Privacy isn't isolation, it's elevation. It's where you prepare before you present. It's where you protect what's growing before you expose it to the elements. Let your silence become your strategy. Let it build something that no noise could ever deliver. Because when you trust the process, when you trust yourself, you don't have to tell everybody what you're doing. You just do it. And eventually, they'll hear the echo of your success long after you've stopped speaking. That's the power of a woman who keeps her plans private. A woman who truly trusts doesn't just speak less, she listens more. And not just to the noise of the world, but to the quiet whispers of her intuition. She has learned, sometimes the hard way, that when you share your plans too early, you invite energy that can disrupt your direction. Not everyone is meant to understand the vision that was given to you. Some people weren't even in the room when it was planted in your hearts, so how can they possibly nurture it? She moves with a different level of awareness now. Her trust isn't loud, it's disciplined. She doesn't waste time convincing anyone of what she's doing or why she's doing it. She's not trying to gather a crowd or gain approval. She's learned the power of walking alone if necessary, especially when the road she's on wasn't meant for public commentary. Because here's the truth. People can only support you to the level of their understanding. And when your calling is bigger than their comprehension, their confusion turns into criticism. That's why she doesn't share everything anymore. She's no longer the woman who posts every win, every move, every breakthrough. She's evolved from that. Now, she lets her work speak. Her presence, her growth, her peace, those are her announcements. That's her broadcast to the world, because she realizes something deeper. Energy is real, and the wrong energy around the right vision can slow it down. Some people don't want to see her rise. Some smile in her face, but pray for her to fall behind her back. She doesn't hate them for it. She just stopped feeding them with information they could twist and use against her. She's not bitter. She's just wise. And that wisdom taught her a powerful lesson. Everything doesn't need to be shared. Some things are meant to be sacred. Some goals are meant to live in silence until they're too big to ignore. The woman who trusts doesn't walk around with a megaphone. She doesn't need the world to see the seed in her hand. She's focused on the harvest that's coming. And when it comes, it won't need an explanation. It'll speak for itself. Let me tell you something. When you're deeply connected to your purpose, you start to realize how fragile it is in the beginning. It's like a newborn. It needs protection. You don't just pass a newborn around to anyone. You guard it. You hold it close. You nurture it in quiet moments. That's how she sees her dreams now. They're not just goals, they're assignments. And she knows there are things working against them. Doubt, distraction, envy, fear. She's seen it before, she's felt it. And now she's building with more caution, more intention. The woman who trusts doesn't move impulsively. She doesn't rush decisions or force timing. She's patient because she understands that good things take time and great things take silence. She's not looking for shortcuts. She's building legacy. And legacy isn't built in the spotlight. It's built in the shadows, in the quiet decisions, in the sleepless nights and disciplined mornings. That's where the real work happens. And don't get it twisted. She still celebrates herself. She still feels the joy, but she's learned to do it in the right places with the right people. Not everyone clapping is cheering for you. Some people are just keeping score. That's why her circle got smaller. That's why her words became fewer. Because the woman who trusts knows her path is sacred and not everyone is qualified to walk beside her. She doesn't need confirmation anymore. Her trust is deep. It's not based on what she sees. It's based on what she knows in her spirit. And that kind of trust is unshakable. It keeps her grounded when life tries to shake her. It gives her strength when everything around her feels uncertain. It's the kind of trust that says, even when I can't see the outcome, I'm still moving forward. Quietly, purposefully. That's why she keeps her plans private. It's not because she's secretive. It's because she's strategic. It's because she respects the weight of her calling. She's not trying to impress anyone. She's trying to impact lives. And that doesn't require applause. It requires discipline. It requires focus. It requires a deep inner strength that doesn't need to be broadcast to be real. And when the time is right, she'll emerge, not with a parade, not with a speech, but with evidence, tangible results, a life that reflects the discipline of someone who trusted in silence. That's the reward of the quiet ones. They let the world talk while they work. They let others post while they prepare. And when their moment comes, it's undeniable. So to every woman learning to keep her mouth closed and her heart open, stay on that path. You're not missing out. You're setting up. You're building something bigger than most people can imagine. And when it's ready, no one will be able to deny what you were doing while they were watching others. The woman who trusts doesn't need noise to feel validated. Her silence is not just a pause, it's a power move. And that power, it's what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. She doesn't speak on everything because she understands that not every voice deserves an explanation. Not every opinion should be addressed. And certainly not every person deserves access to her inner world. The woman who trusts has grown through trials, disappointment, and betrayal, and she knows the cost of being too open. She remembers when she used to explain herself to people who had already made up their minds. She used to share her heart with those who only wanted to pick it apart. She's not that woman anymore. She walks with discernment. She recognizes the power of her words, the value of her vision, and the sacredness of her plans. So she chooses silence over senseless conversations. She chooses privacy over validation. She's no longer in the business of convincing people. Why? Because when you know who you are and where you're going, you stop entertaining people who don't understand your journey. She's done shrinking her dreams to make others comfortable. She's done explaining her moves to those who never even believed in her to begin with. She has learned that silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. You see, when you respond to everything, when you try to clear your name, defend your choices, or justify your silence, you hand people power they never earned. But when you stay quiet, when you hold your position with strength and grace, you confuse the enemy. They don't know what you're thinking. They don't know your next move. They can't prepare for what they can't predict. That's how she operates now. Unpredictable, intentional, focused. She's got her vision set on something bigger than being liked or understood. She's chasing purpose. She's chasing peace. And both of those require boundaries. So she draws a line, not out of hate, but out of growth. She's not bitter, she's better. Better at knowing what to say and, more importantly, what not to say. Some battles are won by silence. Some storms are calmed by staying still. And she's mastered the art of holding her tongue until it's time to speak from a place of power. People used to drain her with questions, opinions, judgments. They'd want to know every detail of her life, not because they cared, but because they were curious. And curiosity without care is dangerous. It leads to gossip. It leads to sabotage. She's been through that. She's seen how people smile while collecting ammunition from her own mouth. So now, she's quiet. Not cold, not distant, just guarded. She's learned to keep sacred what others would use as spectacle. And the woman who trusts doesn't need the approval of the crowd. That's why she keeps moving even when no one claps. She builds in silence. She heals in silence. She grows in silence. Because she knows that real growth is internal, and sometimes the loudest progress is the kind no one sees. That's where her strength lies. In the discipline to stay quiet when the world expects noise. When people question her, she doesn't flinch. She doesn't feel the need to defend every move. Because here's the truth. When you stop explaining yourself, you start conserving energy. And that energy, it goes back into your purpose. It goes back into your passion. It goes back into building the life you were meant to live. She's tired of wasting time on people who only listen to respond, not to understand. She no longer gives full paragraphs to people who only bring one-line minds. And she's not being rude, she's protecting herself. She understands now that peace comes with privacy. Her peace is expensive. Her joy has been hard-earned. And she won't risk either by over-explaining to people who haven't earned the right to her truth. Not everyone deserves to hear your plans, your struggles, your dreams. Some things are for you and the one who gave you the vision. Some things are meant to be protected until they're powerful enough to speak on their own. She knows the weight of her calling. She knows the depth of her growth. And because of that, she moves differently. She no longer engages in every debate, replies to every text, or attends every event. That's not pride, that's progress. That's what happens when a woman stops living for public approval and starts living for personal alignment. She doesn't owe anyone her voice, not when her silence speaks louder than any explanation ever could. There's power in walking away from the noise. There's power in not reacting, in choosing your battles, in being strategic with your words. She's tapped into that power, and now she's unbothered by whispers, unaffected by rumors, and unmoved by doubt. Because her confidence isn't built on being understood, it's built on being secure. Secure in her journey, secure in her purpose, secure in her truth. She knows now that sometimes the best response is no response. Let them wonder. Let them guess, let them assume, because while they talk, she's building. While they gossip, she's growing. While they question, she's preparing. And when the time comes, when the moment is right, her success will answer every question they ever had. She doesn't speak on everything. She doesn't need to. Her energy is too precious, her purpose too powerful, her vision too valuable. And if you don't understand that, you were never meant to. She knows that people can't ruin what they don't know about. That's why she keeps her life quiet, her progress discreet, and her next move to herself. See, she's learned a hard way. Some people don't celebrate you, they study you. They don't clap when you win. They calculate how to block the next blessing. And if you're not careful, you'll give them the blueprint to sabotage the very thing you were building in silence. But not her, not anymore. She's been through enough to know the difference between genuine support and silent competition. Some people smile in your face but hope in their hearts that you fail. They ask about your plans not to pray over them, but to plot against them. And that's why she keeps her circle small and her secrets sacred. She's not paranoid. She's protected. She's not fearful. She's focused. She understands the spiritual principle: what's hidden can't be hindered. So she keeps it hidden. She works in the dark so it can shine in the light. She's mastered the art of quiet preparation. While others are broadcasting every move, every plan, every idea, she's building behind the scenes. Her silence isn't emptiness. It's activity. It's protection. Because every time you speak prematurely, you give someone the opportunity to interfere. And interference can delay destiny. So she moves in silence, not because she's unsure, but because she's secure. She trusts the timing. She trusts the process. And most importantly, she trusts that not everyone can handle her vision. But she's seen it before. The moment you share your dreams, suddenly the energy changes. People go from inspired to intimidated, from supportive to silent. They smile less, they question more. They throw subtle jabs cloaked in concern. Are you sure that's going to work? I wouldn't do it that way if I were you. Maybe you should wait until next year. And before you know it, your confidence is shaken, not because you were wrong, but because you shared it with the wrong person. That's why she's learned to protect her peace by protecting her plans. Because peace is fragile. Vision is sacred. And dreams are spiritual seeds. You don't throw them just anywhere. You plant them in silence. You water them with discipline. And you wait. Because she knows every time you expose a dream too early, you invite opinions that were never meant to be part of the journey. And opinions, they're heavy. They weigh on you. They cloud your mind. They shift your focus. But when she stays quiet, she stays clear. There's strength in that silence. There's wisdom in that restraint. Not everyone has earned the right to hear what she's working on. Not everyone can handle the weight of her destiny. She's chosen to stop casting her pearls before people who only trample them. She's no longer giving sacred things to those with shallow minds. That's growth. That's maturity. That's protection. She's not hiding, she's preserving. There's a difference. She's not avoiding the world. She's building a better one for herself. One plan at a time, one plan at a time. And when it's time to reveal it, it'll be undeniable, because what's built in silence speaks the loudest when it's finished. She doesn't need to announce what she's doing. Her results will do the talking. Her elevation will speak for itself. And her glow up, that'll be the loudest sound in the room. She's no longer impressed by attention. She's not seeking applause. She's not chasing validation. She's done living for other people's approval. Her satisfaction comes from knowing that she's walking in alignment, that she's moving with purpose, that she's being guided by something greater than public opinion. And when you live like that, quietly, purposefully, boldly, nobody can shake you. Not gossip, not envy, not betrayal, because none of it has access to what they don't know exists. That's why her life feels peaceful now. That's why her energy is lighter. She stopped explaining. She stopped oversharing. She stopped inviting people into rooms they were never meant to enter. And in doing so, she's taking back her power. She's no longer drained by people who only come around to monitor, not to motivate. She's no longer giving updates to people who are silently competing. Her silence has become her strength. Her discretion is her defense. So when you don't hear from her, don't think she's doing nothing. She's doing everything, just not for show. Her success won't be the result of noise. It'll be the result of discipline, consistency, and divine alignment. She doesn't need to prove herself anymore. She just needs to protect herself. And the best way to do that? Keep quiet. Keep moving. Keep trusting. Because what people can't see, they can't sabotage. What they don't know, they can't delay. And what's protected in silence, it's destined to flourish. She's not trying to be mysterious. She's just being wise. She knows the enemy studies her patterns. She knows envy disguises itself as concern. She knows not everyone smiling is sincere. So now she smiles back but says less. She listens more and speaks with purpose. And that quiet, steady, intentional life she's built, it's leading her exactly where she's meant to go. No noise, no distractions, just purpose, privacy, and peace. A woman who truly trusts walks with unshakable confidence. Not because she has all the answers, not because she sees the whole picture, but because she knows who's painting it. And that trust, it silences fear, it silences doubt, it silences every voice that tries to question her worth, her timing, or her future. She doesn't panic when things slow down. She doesn't break when doors close, because she knows that delays are not denials. And sometimes the no's are just protecting her from what wasn't ready, or worse, what wasn't right. Her trust gives her peace in the middle of uncertainty. When life starts shifting, when the ground feels shaky, when everyone else is running in circles trying to make things happen, she stays still. Not out of laziness, but out of wisdom. She knows that her steps are ordered, that what's meant for her will always find its way, even if it takes time. She understands that rushing leads to wreckage, that forcing leads to failure. So she waits, she prepares, she keeps doing her part and lets the bigger plan unfold on its own time. She doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. You won't always see her making noise. You won't always hear her name in every conversation. But make no mistake, she's moving strategically, quietly, faithfully. Her strength isn't in what she says, it's in what she believes. And when you have that kind of internal stability, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. You don't have to argue. You don't have to explain. You don't have to convince people to believe in you, because you already believe in yourself, and more importantly, in the plan that's being worked out behind the scenes. When people walk away, she doesn't chase. When doors shut, she doesn't force them open. When things don't make sense in the moment, she doesn't crumble. She simply says, I may not understand it now, but I trust it's for my good. And that kind of mindset, that's rare. That's power. Because most people panic when they don't have control, but not her. She releases it. She lets go of the need to micromanage every outcome. She lets go of the need to be in control. She understands that true control comes from surrender. And surrender, that's not weakness. That's strength in its highest form. She's been through storms that tried to break her. She's faced seasons where nothing made sense. Times where the silence was deafening. Moments where she questioned everything. But instead of running, instead of breaking, instead of folding, she stayed grounded. She kept walking. Not always fast, not always with full clarity, but always forward. And that's what trust looks like. Not perfection, not pretending to have it all figured out, but walking even when the path is dark. Believing even when the vision feels blurry. Choosing peace over panic. She knows that battles aren't always fought with swords. Sometimes they're fought with silence. Sometimes with prayer. Sometimes with simply refusing to react. And that's how she wins. By not giving energy to chaos, by not answering to drama, by not lowering herself to the level of those who misunderstand her or misjudge her. Her trust gives her tunnel vision. It keeps her focused. It keeps her rising. While others are busy watching her, she's focused on the mission. And when life hits her hard, when disappointments knock on her door, she doesn't fall apart like she used to. She may cry, she may feel it, but she doesn't stay there. She gets back up, with more wisdom, more fire, and more faith. Because she's seen enough to know that nothing is wasted, not the pain, not the delays, not the confusion. Every setback has been a setup, every detour a redirection. And because of that, her trust has grown stronger, deeper, unshakable. She's not interested in shortcuts. She's not looking for applause. She's not here for instant results. She's here for alignment, for longevity, for purpose. She knows that anything built too fast can fall just as quickly. So she builds slow, she builds wisely, she builds in truth. That's why you won't see her panicking when things don't happen overnight. She's playing the long game. Her roots go deep, and her foundation is solid. Her trust has taught her patience, not the passive kind, not the kind where you sit and hope, but the active kind, the kind where you keep showing up, where you keep working, where you keep moving forward with faith, even when nothing seems to be changing. She doesn't stop just because she can't see progress. She knows that real growth happens underground, that breakthroughs often come after long seasons of silence. So she doesn't despise the quiet, she honors it. And in that quiet, she's learning, she's healing, she's becoming. Every closed door, every delay, every unanswered question, it's all molding her into someone stronger, more refined, more resilient. That's why she trusts, not because life is easy, but because she knows the hard moments are building her for what's coming. And when it finally arrives, she'll be ready, not surprised, not scrambling, ready. So if you see her walking calmly through the fire, understand it's not because the fire doesn't burn. It's because she knows the fire can't consume her. She's already decided her faith is bigger than the flames. Her purpose is stronger than the pressure. And her trust, that's her armor. That's her anchor. That's her secret. And because of that, she wins. Every single time. The woman who trusts deeply doesn't move with the crowd. She walks alone. Not because she has no one, but because she's been chosen to move differently. She's not loud. She's not flashy. She doesn't need attention. She doesn't need validation. She knows who she is, and she knows what she carries. So she keeps her plans private. Her silence is not weakness, it's discipline. It's strength wrapped in humility. It's power under control, because she understands something most people overlook. Not every battle is won by speaking. Some victories come from staying quiet and letting results speak for themselves. She's learned that when you share too much, you invite interference, you attract opinions, you welcome energy that doesn't belong, and energy is everything. So she protects hers, she guards her peace. Her goals are sacred, not for public consumption. Not everyone needs to know what she's building. Not everyone deserves a seat at her table. Not everyone will understand her process. And that's fine, because she's not building for applause. She's building for alignment. She's not looking to be seen. She's looking to be ready. There were seasons when she used to overshare, when she wanted people to clap for her dreams, when she craved approval, but life taught her differently. Life taught her that when you tell too much, too soon, people start pulling on your vision. They start projecting their fears onto your destiny. They start planting seeds of doubt where there was once confidence. So now she moves in silence, not out of fear, but out of wisdom, because she knows that peace and progress love privacy. She doesn't announce what she's working on. She doesn't need to. Her focus is laser sharp. Her energy is sacred. Every plan, every prayer, every step she holds close to her chest until it's time. And when it's time, the world won't get an explanation. They'll get results. They won't get warning. They'll get wonder. Because that's how power moves, quietly, strategically. Without broadcasting every detail, she's not hiding, she's maturing, she's elevating in silence. Her silence is a strategy. It's not because she lacks vision. It's because her vision is so big, she refuses to let noise dilute it. She refuses to let premature exposure damage what's still being formed. You see, not everything is meant to be shared. Some things need to grow in secret, like a seed in the soil, hidden, buried, unseen. But just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not growing. And that's how she lives, quietly developing, quietly building, quietly becoming. People may think she's distant, that she's not doing much, but behind closed doors, she's preparing, she's praying, she's planning. She's becoming someone they won't recognize because she's working on things they can't see. She understands that noise brings distraction, and distraction kills dreams. So she cuts out the noise, she says less, she listens more. She's not trying to impress anyone. She's trying to become the woman she's destined to be. She doesn't post every win. She doesn't share every move. She's not interested in proving anything. She's interested in growth, in healing, in purpose. And real purpose doesn't need an audience to be powerful. That's why she protects her next step, because she knows the wrong eyes can delay it, the wrong voices can distort it, and the wrong energy can derail it. So she stays quiet, still, focused, not because she's unsure, but because she's secure. There's something sacred about a woman who keeps her plans private. It speaks of discipline, of strength, of knowing who she is and what she carries. She's not in a rush to be seen. She's in a rush to be ready. So she uses this season to prepare in silence. She keeps her head down and her spirit up. She's not sharing everything she's praying for because some things are too deep, too precious, too fragile to be exposed to the public eye. And when people ask her what she's up to, she smiles. She gives them just enough, never too much, because she knows the value of mystery. She knows that the more people know, the more they try to control. So she keeps her vision wrapped in silence and covered in faith. She's not being secretive, she's being wise. Because privacy isn't hiding. Privacy is healing. Privacy is alignment. Privacy is peace. She knows that not everyone clapping for her is rooting for her. Not everyone asking about her plans wants to see them succeed. So she discerns. She trusts her intuition. She speaks only when necessary, and even then, she filters her words. She protects her space, her energy, and her mission. Because one thing she's learned, once you let the wrong person into your vision, it can get clouded, it can get delayed, it can get drained. So she protects it at all costs. Her silence is her sanctuary. In that silence, she hears clearer, she sees clearer, she dreams deeper, and when the time comes, her work will speak for itself. Her life will be the evidence. Her fruit will be undeniable. She won't have to say a word, because real power doesn't shout. Real power shows up. It walks in the room and commands attention, not by noise, but by presence. And she's becoming that presence, one quiet step at a time. So don't mistake her silence for inactivity. Don't confuse her privacy for weakness. She's moving, she's growing, she's elevating. And when the world finally sees what she's been building in private, they'll understand why she kept it that way. Because some things are just too powerful to be shared before their time. And she's one of them. A woman who trusts doesn't need to announce, because her faith walks ahead of her, and her results do the talking. Stay silent, stay sharp, and watch how the world starts asking questions. Not about what you said, but how you did it without saying a word.